We're going to be talking about how we grew an $80 million revenue live streaming business in just under a year and a half. Before we get going, I'll probably give you some sense of who we are. So I'm the CEO and co-founder of the Meet Group. I founded the app that you see here, Meet Me, back in 2005, actually, along with my brother and sister, who were then teenagers. We have 15 plus million monthly active users, so a lot of users using our apps. About 4.5 million daily active users. But we've only been doing live streaming now for about 3 years, at least building the tech for it. We only started monetizing it about a year and a half ago. Our apps include not only Meet Me, but Livestreaming, a large German, actually the Berlin connection. Hopefully you've heard of Livestreaming if you're in the Berlin area. Tagged, an African American meeting app. Growler, a gay dating app, and most recently, podcast listener. Because this is a marketing summit, I thought I'd pause and just give a little insight into Podcoin. Of these apps, most of these apps started some time ago and have kind of their own interesting marketing histories. Podcoin's we just got started. Grew it to about 30,000 daily active users in just 6 months, all organically. And what we basically did is I tend to think of a couple different ways of driving app growth. One is, novelty, right? So the concept itself has to be novel and interesting. And Podcoin is basically an incented listening platform. We pay you this Podcoin coin that you can then redeem for gift cards in order to listen to the podcast you probably already listened to. And then we combined that with kind of variable rewards, so we can alternate how much Podcoin we give you depending on what you're listening to. And if by doing that, we were able to attract podcasters to the platform who want their podcast to be featured, and then we trade with them promotion for Podcoin, like a mid-roll ad in a podcast. If you promote, and then if you give us a mid-roll ad, we'll promote your app on Podcoin. We'll promote your podcast on Podcoin. So we actually grew to thousands of users a day, 30,000 daily active users in 6 months, all free doing that. But versus the other apps on this, Podcoin is still tiny. The other apps, they are getting million plus daily active users. But I think the Podcoin example gives a sense of how we think about viral marketing. Like, how do you take the creators of your platform? In the case of Meet Me and Livestreaming and Tagged, the creators are the live streamers. In the case of Podcoin, it's the podcasters. But how do you take the creators and turn them into a marketing army? The company had $178 million of revenue in 2018, $32 million of EBITDA, $26 million free cash flow. So, just to give you a sense of where kind of we operate, if I look at the landscape today, we see a mix of apps that offer either utility, as you see on one platform, or entertainment. If you haven't seen this essay, it's a great one by Eugene Wei, W-E-I, that says, talks about kind of the social landscape and basically all mobile apps on this continuum of utility, entertainment, and the third axis of status. I think we spend a lot of time thinking about that whenever we're building products. But removing the status, here you can see, we put this landscape of mobile apps on utility, like a Tinder, a Grindr, a Scruff. These offer utility. You might be there to find a date. And then on the entertainment side, you might find a Netflix, a TikTok. You're there to, cure boredom, waste time. We're trying to aim at that space between where with high utility, where you feel some sense of human connection. You might be having dates. You're meeting people that you care about, with also entertainment. And we feel like live streaming is the perfect medium for that, because when you're watching a live stream, you're often commenting. You're often being very interactive. And the live streamer might mention your name. They react to the things you do. And so there's this element of both connection, this utility, as well as the entertainment. And we think it's a really powerful spot. We are convinced that live streaming is going to be dramatically bigger business, 2 years from now, a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, than it is today. And so we feel like it's still a fairly early time. And what we are concentrated on with respect to live interaction is really combining live streaming with dating. You can see here, how that's been working. We're creating entertainment properties out of these dating apps. Prior, they were just a bunch of people sending texts to each other, chats, looking at the locals grid and trying to find people that were nearby. We basically added a live streaming component to that and grew, a pretty significant business very quickly. The average viewer of our live streams is watching 25 minutes a day. There's about 900,000 daily users and a little over 100,000 broadcasters. So, how do you market this so what was so interesting about live streaming is we were able to, without cannibalizing the existing revenue streams, grow, get 25% of our users to spend 25 minutes a day. So we basically looked at it as, how do you get the existing base of users to spend more time with your platform? And live streaming turned out to be the solution. And we had to be very careful in rolling it out to these users, that we weren't chasing them away from the things that would otherwise drive our engagement engine. So we didn't want to roll out live streaming and then suddenly see the number of chats go down, or daily active users fall, or the reg funnel fall. And so we were very careful about picking different product hooks that would drive people in. Now, one of the interesting things about live streaming is just how much better it monetizes than almost every other form of media. When we look at how much these apps earn per hour of app usage that is not in video, you can see it here. 18 cents for Meet Me, 7 cents on Scout. Why is that lower? Scout tends to be a much more international app, whereas Meet Me is more US. And Tagged, about the same as Meet Me, also tends to be more US. But if you look at the app, when you look at the live streaming revenue per hour, it's dramatically bigger. 3.5 times bigger. And so why is that? How is that working? Right now, the way that we monetize live streaming is mostly through virtual gifting model. So users, if they want to stand out, imagine there's a streamer and there's 500 people watching. If a viewer wants to stand out amidst this crowded room, they will give a gift, maybe a virtual, drink, or a virtual, or a yacht, virtual. And the streamer will kind of see and give attention to the person who's giving that gift. Now, as you think about marketing, I think the job of marketing is obviously grow the business. I think we're kind of a case study for marketing not always needing to be externally focused. Clearly important to have external focus, but a lot of our growth, this $82 million business, grew from figuring out how to market a new product to our existing users. We added live as a tab in the nav bar, which you can see kind of circled there. We basically just made it one of the 5 main tabs in our app. And that alone was good for 10%, a little bit more than 10% of users coming into the apps every day. But then we started rolling out, and there's some things that we rolled out that we reversed on A/B tests. But the things that stuck, we started rolling out these marquees at the top of our chat screen, which is one of our main, or our local screen, which is one of our main screens, and our chat screen. And the marquee I'm talking about is the horizontal unit that says live now and trending. And the user psychology here is somewhat interesting. You say, well, why on a chat app that's around meeting and dating does anyone care about live video in a one-to-many format? And the reason it comes down to, like, why is anyone there in the first place? And they're there in the first place for human connection. They're there to try to get to feel less lonely, to connect to someone. And you're mostly doing that in chat. But there's often lulls in social products where you just don't have enough chats. You just responded to one, or one didn't come in. And you could go off to the next app, or you can tap on this person who's live right now and potentially doing something interesting. And when you tap in that, it's not like watching a TikTok stream or Netflix. The person's actually reacting to you. You could even join the streamer in their guest screen. And so, I think that's ultimately the user psychology of why live streaming works here. As we added out these additional hooks into the product, the tab, the marquees, push notifications if you follow the streamer, we saw the share of users who watch live streams every day go from 10% to 15, 20, now 25% of Meet Me users watching live streams every day. Roughly half of all our monthly users are watching live streams. And our job right now is to get that 25% per day number closer to 35%. I think we see significant opportunities to continue to market these new video products through the product itself. So again, how do you find new hooks in to take your existing users and market to them a new product? And the way we think about this is, what are the 75% of our users doing who aren't in video? And the answer is that they're in text-based chat. Right now we know that 50% of our DAU is in text-based chat and not in live video. And so we're launching this one-on-one video product relatively soon. And the goal of that is to bring many of these one-on-one text-based chats into live video. Another kind of interesting thing that we're thinking about and we'll be launching relatively soon or later this year is a live streaming dating game. So you're probably familiar with HQ, like a live streaming video or trivia game. We feel like there should be a live streaming dating version where everyone can be the star of their own dating game. And we basically got to this idea by asking ourselves, what is it that the 75% of people who are in video today want? And, if you're on Meet Me, if you're on our German app Lavo, you're there because you want dates. Like, that's why many of the users are there. And so, building a live streaming dating game kind of makes sense. It enables, I think, a number of interesting marketing opportunities to bring back users. One is a nightly push notification. Another so we have 4.5 million users. We'll send 4.5 million users a push, get back tens of thousands of users undoubtedly every day. Another is novelty, right? I tend to think if you want to build an app and have that app spread, you need some novelty. We haven't seen, live streaming dating games done at scale. I think we'll be among the first at that. And then virality. When you're thinking about an app unit, you typically want something that you might imagine being able to post to Instagram or somewhere else. Live streaming video is actually difficult to do that with in its form the way we have it, because it's a multi-hour streamers stream for hours. There's not a key moment that you would necessarily think to record and share. Whereas a time-bound dating game we think makes for nice drama and is exactly the sort of thing that you would potentially want to share. In terms of touching briefly on marketing versus acquisition. So, we actually have reduced our overall external paid marketing budget over the last few years at the same time as we've grown a significant business. And the reason is we've actually spent, if we want to gap up our daily active users, we actually acquire companies. We acquired 3 million daily active users, starting with my company that I founded, Meet Me, 1 million plus DAU. We added 3 million more DAU in the last 3 years by just buying a few different companies that we felt like we could apply our video know-how to. So building a live streaming video platform took us tens of millions of dollars in multiple years. We wanted to leverage that investment across a bigger DAU base. We could have spent $300 million marketing the buying users for $5 to $10 and getting 10% of those users to stick, in the long run. But we decided instead to spend $200 million, do more or less the same thing, except at the same time bring on, tens of millions of dollars of EBITDA. So you're not just buying the user, then you're actually buying the business. So the acquisition side has been a very interesting and quick way to gap up our daily active users. And this is just a graphical representation. So you can see we spend on external paid marketing we're spending on platforms like Facebook and and Snapchat and Instagram, Liftoff and so forth. We went from 14, 15% of revenue spent on marketing to, approaching closer to 12% now. And so at the same time, because we've been able to do that, we've actually been able to grow margin while growing daily active users by a few 100%. And these are just some of the platforms that we buy on. Those will be familiar. So to kind of wrap up, we think it's important to, as kind of we're looking into the future. We think there's opportunities to continue to grow video revenue. Most of this is actually the external story on how we do this is all about taking the user base we have and marketing kind of new products to them, one-on-one video, live streaming dating games, and growing the share of users in video, while at the same time launching new monetization opportunities in video. And then where we want to grow our total DAU, we'll likely do that through the novelty of the products we're launching or through continued acquisition. And I don't know if there's time for questions or not, but I'd be happy to take any. What's that? Okay, that's great. Thank you, everybody.